For my entrepreneurs, my side hustlers, or if you're an entrepreneur that's in your business full time, you do not want to miss this episode. So on this episode, we are going to talk about, that mounting to-do list that you have of things that need to get done in your business. Let's talk about how to choose which one you should actually start with if you want to move the needle. Let's get into it right after the theme song. So the big question is this: how do we ambitious professionals avoid the slow-moving career, take control of our time, and get paid for two things? Doing what excites us and making an impact bigger than anyone ever thought was possible. That is the question, and this podcast has the answers. My name is Candace Spears, and welcome to Ambition, Honey, and Hustle. So there are often more things to do than there is time in the day. And I'm sure you have experienced this often, if not most days. So for me, in the past, I'd say over the past week or so, let's say the past week, there's just been a lot of activity, and the to-do list has been mounting of things I need to get done, whether it's making sure an email gets out to the list, or what's going to be up next on the podcast, or finding the next guest, or making sure that the program materials are ready for any of my courses. Whatever it is, there's a lot of things to do. And I just remember one day I was sitting back and saying, I was writing out the to-do list. And what I will do is I think I talked about this in another episode too. I will do both do some things on paper, but I will do some things electronically. And when it comes to to-do lists, I use Trello, because that way I can share with my team when there are things that need to happen and I need someone to create something or do this or do that we can just use that communication via the board. But I started writing down a list of things, and I was thinking, okay, so what am I going to do tomorrow? And then as I started to write down a few of the things, I looked at the items that I put down, and then I said to myself, okay, is this item really going to get me where I need to go? Is it going to move me to the next thing? Is it going to move the needle from my business perspective? So then I stopped and I said, okay, let me think about 3 different categories of things. And here are the 3 categories I thought about. The first one was things that will bring in new business, or things that will grow my business. The second one was things that will maintain my current business and current customer base. The third one was things that don't change my business, but are nice to have, or are pleasing to the eye, or however you might want to put that. And so when I laid out those 3 categories, I'm telling you, it felt magical. So I took some of the items that I was putting down on my to-do list, and then I started putting them in the different categories. And I was finding that there were only like a couple things that bubbled up into that first category of things that will bring me new business. And that automatically pointed me in the right direction. You've got to pay attention to that second column too, though, maintaining the current business and current customer base. But that first column made me say immediately, all right, if my time is short, I know that I'm in growth mode, I'm building a business, that's where my energy needs to be focused first. That next category of maintenance is second. And that third category of the nice to haves, but they don't really change the business, those are much lower on the list. So knowing those 3 things really helped me cut out some of the noise to say, okay, I'm just going to go after those items that truly are going to help me grow. And let me just give you an example of some of those things. So for me, one of the items in that things that will bring new biz category, as I was thinking about for my email list, having launched the podcast, and when you've got a lot of different things going on in your business, again, all related, sometimes you don't always have the time to circle back on other things. So I had an email list that was growing from some Instagram related things, and just from people hearing about Fulfilling Career Roadmap and that type of thing. But these weren't people who necessarily knew a lot yet. depending on when they came in and at what point in time they came in, about the podcast and the great value that they could get from listening to the podcast. So I knew I need to put that on my list to make sure I get that email out to folks as just sort of a starting base point for who was already on my list, to get them involved and bring them into that fold. And that was one way to grow the business. So from the second point, maintaining the current business and current customer base on my CandaceSpears.com website, even though it's up now and we had recently made the shift. So CandaceSpears.com has always been around for a while, but recently made the shift and redesigned things a bit. What I hadn't done in the midst of that shift, in the midst of starting the podcast, in the midst of getting the courses out, is go back and make sure that everything was good on mobile, which I'm telling you right now, if you have a site, this is a very important thing that you do. So don't do what I did in this case. Always make sure that your stuff looks good on mobile, because most of the consumption today happens on mobile. So that's very important. But I knew I had to go back. I knew it wasn't in a bad zone. So it wasn't a super urgent thing just because of the provider I use. Generally has things fit for mobile, but I needed to go back and check that. And that was important for me to make sure that when you talk about current business, that people have a good experience with me. If they need to go back to that site to grab something, it should be a good experience. So that was an example in the second one. In the third one, the things that don't change the business but are nice to have, I knew that there was a piece of artwork that Lynn on my team had just finished doing for a download in one of my programs, and I had it redone because it needed to be redone. It didn't exactly go with the image that was in the product mock-up. So that was one of the things that I knew, okay, I want to get this on here because it's pleasing to the eye and it kind of goes along with what they see in the mock-up, but it's not going to make a material difference one way or the other. The download, the information, the value is still there, whether or not the cover is changed. So I put that a little lower on the list. So here you see a very easy way for you to kind of cut out the noise in that to-do list when it comes to your business and think about, here are the things that move the needle. They're going to help me grow. Here are the things that help me maintain my current business or customer base, so I should pay attention to it. And then the third one, the things that don't really change my business, but they're nice to have. They're aesthetic related things. So take this into your biz and enjoy your day, enjoy your evening whenever you're listening, and I will talk to you again very, very soon. Listen, the hustle can be tiring. All this ambition, all this moving, fast pace, getting it done. So what do? You surround yourself with the energy and the motivation to keep going. And you know where you find that energy and motivation? Right here on this podcast. So if you haven't already, listen, follow, share, subscribe. I'm on here every day bringing you that energy, and with my special guest, bringing you the motivation that you need to keep pushing further and further into your bigger impact. If we haven't got connected already, let's get connected on Instagram. You can follow me at Candace Spears. I look forward to catching up with you very soon.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.